Are you? Are you coming to the tree? Strange things have happened and stranger things have been. Sorry. Hi guys, my name is Kayla and welcome to my channel. You can probably tell by that cringe intro that today we are doing a full review of The Hunger Games, Ballad of the Songbirds and the Snakes. And I probably said that title wrong because for some reason it messes with my mind. I always added the at the wrong place. But anyway, so today we are doing a full review of this movie and I'm so excited to talk about this. Truthfully, I wanted to do a reaction, but I had a lot of technical difficulties with the video, and when I wanted to edit it, both my laptop and my phone could not handle editing this video because it was so long, and I don't know what happened. Something happened. I couldn't edit the video. It didn't allow me to. So, unfortunately, that video is lost to the ether. So, we are going to do a full review. I'll talk about all of my thoughts, and honestly I think this will be a fun way to talk about everything in depth because while reacting I couldn't say these things, so maybe it's a good thing, you know, silver linings and all that. I also have this little pen today, by the way, that is like a mockingjay. It's actually an earring, but wee woo wee woo. So we're gonna do a full review. I have like 3 pages of notes, so get ready folks. But anyway, so needless to say, this video will be full of spoilers for The Hunger Games, Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes movie, and for the rest of the Hunger Games series, as I will be bringing up things that they reference and things. So if you don't want any spoilers, please go watch the movie and the other movies and maybe even read the books. But if you don't care about spoilers, stick along and maybe you'll learn something. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So before I start talking about my thoughts about the film, I just want to state that I have not read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book. So if there are things left out, if there are something that the movie missed, I don't know. And like, I didn't read the book for a reason. First, I didn't know why I didn't read the book as when I was younger, when I read the other ones. Maybe I was just like, I don't care at that point in my youth, you know? But I haven't read it ever. So I think honestly it ended up being a blessing because I did prefer, I think, watching this movie without reading the book. And I do think it is better sometimes if there is a book to watch the movie first, because reading the book can sometimes ruin the movie, and I had that same experience with The Hunger Games. I watched the movies before reading the books, and I think that made me love the series so much more. So honestly, it worked out for the best that I didn't read the book for this movie, and I'll definitely read it now after so I can get all those little juicy details that I missed, and I love learning those things. I'm obsessed with the Hunger Games series. You guys might not know that about me because I don't think I've ever really talked about it that much, but yeah, The Hunger Games is one of my favorite series. I obsess about the movies, I obsess about the books, and all of the little details we will be talking about in this because they reference a lot, and especially if you're a book reader, you'll know some extra little things that maybe a movie watcher did not know. But anyway, so to sum up that giant paragraph, I do think it was better for me not to have read the book before watching this movie because I had no prior thoughts or, you know, things that I expected. So I went in completely blind, and that was amazing. I'm so happy about that. So yeah, we're done talking about that. Now we're gonna get into my thoughts on this movie. Now, I loved it. Okay, first thoughts, I loved it. I'm just gonna say that before I get into the nitty and gritty. I loved every second of it. It exceeded my expectations for sure. But anyway, so let's start with what I loved in this movie. So I loved Lucy Gray and her voice. All of the songs in this movie, by the way, was beautifully written, gave me chills every single time. Her voice is gorgeous and it very much fitted the narrative, and I love that they went for a country kind of style, and it's very different from the songs we have in the rest of the series. So it shows the time jump, but it also fits with the love story kind of that is in this because it feels like a country love story. that doesn't end up going well, but regardless. So yeah, I loved her. I loved Lucy Gray. She is iconic. I already like, she's going down history as one of those characters that is iconic, just like Katniss, you know? I love the parallels to Katniss from Lucy, like, you know, her singing, the way she moves people without even trying. But Lucy does it in a much more purposeful way, while Katniss does not want to move anyone, but she ends up doing so. So they both have parallels, but also they are opposites of each other, which I love. And I know Rachel Ziegler said something like, Katniss is a fighter having to perform, and Lucy is a performer having to fight. And I loved that quote, and it is totally true in this story. Now, I loved seeing how Snow got to the point he was in the main series. I never really thought I would want a prequel. Like, I knew the book existed, but I didn't read it because I was like, you know, I'm happy with Snow. I'm glad, like, I'm happy with the way he is. I didn't need a backstory, and how wrong I was, because this was so amazing to see where he got all of this. You know what I mean? Like, where he got all of his ideas, his thoughts. I realized that I forgot to mention that in the newer movies, he says something like, someone's like, "Ooh, everyone loves an underdog," and he's like, "I don't. And if you could really see them, you wouldn't like them either." And I really like noticed watching this film, like, it's kind of hilarious because he was an underdog. He was like poor in the beginning. Oh, poor people. Like he would say in the future. And he knows what he did to get to where he is now, to not be an underdog anymore. So I think that's how he sees other underdogs, because of what he did, and not necessarily about what they do. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Goodbye, back to the video. I thought Viola Davis, Lucy and Snow's performances were amazing, especially Snow, as this is such a complex character, and I thought the actor portrayed it very well. Like, in the beginning you're like, good, bad, I don't know, there's a hint of evilness, and then at the end you're like, yeah, that's Snow, that's the Snow we know. And I thought he did a great job, so that's good. And I also loved Lucy and Viola's performances, and also Peter Dinklage's performance. They all did amazing, and I think that is a big reason why this movie was so good in my opinion. And the visual storytelling of this movie was next level. Like, okay, maybe people who know more might not think it's great, but I really loved this movie's visual storytelling. I loved the filmmaking. The shots were very good in my opinion. I loved, like, there was a lot of like close-up shots that you might not see in films anymore, but I do think it like brought back that feeling you had with the original Hunger Games movies, where they did a lot of these close-ups. I also loved the symbolism in a lot of the visual storytelling. Like, for example, Viola Davis's character had this lab coat and glove combo. The gloves were red, kind of like she had blood on her hands, and she had like an ombre red and white coat, and kind of looked like a blood-stained white lab coat. And I love that symbolism because that's very much that character, because she's like a mad scientist who definitely has blood on her hands. Definitely. So I loved that kind of detail. I know some people didn't like her performance for some reason. I don't get it. Some people thought it was too much, but I thought it was the perfect balance of camp and realness in this universe, especially because capital people are eccentric. They are like this, and that is why Katniss has always had this like, oh, look at how they're like clowns, they're creepy. And that is the perfect way to show that. And I don't think they showed that a lot in the original movies, so I did enjoy that they showed that in this, and she did an amazing job as usual. She is amazing. But I just wanted to say that for some people who maybe didn't like her performance in this. But, you know, each their own. But yeah, I loved it. But yeah, that is just an example of all of those like little details of symbolism. Of course, there's the big detail. The songbird is Lucy, the snake is Snow. And I love that the whole movie snakes are there, and they're kind of like on Snow's side, on Lucy's side, but eventually a snake turns on Snow and then he turns into a snake. That might be a stupid way to say it, but you know what I mean. Like, oh, I just love it. There's so many little details like that. I also loved all the subtle hints and maybe not so subtle hints to the original series. There were a lot of placements of things that took place in the original series, and also little details that were subtle that maybe some of you didn't notice that I will point out immediately. So, first of all, there was a bow in the arena. It wasn't really used. It was definitely just there to be like, Katniss, where are you? And also Lucy Gray did the catching fire bow. And I'm guessing that means that Katniss based the bow on Lucy Gray. Maybe that's like an iconic moment in history. And she was like, yeah, baby. I loved that moment so much. So I loved that callback, but also like foreshadowing, because this is a prequel. And yeah, all of those little details were amazing. A lot of references to Katniss and her dad as well. And these references are things that I don't think you would know if you didn't read the books. Maybe you do, and that is amazing, but I would like to point some of them out. So there's a lot of mention of the lake, and I'm guessing this is the same lake that we hear about in the books. Katniss and her dad went to this lake often in the original books, and the moment Lucy said, there's a lake and not a lot of people know about it, I was like, that's the lake, that's the lake. And I did imagine it being a little smaller in my head when I read the books, but it makes a lot more sense that it is bigger, I guess, but in my mind always it was a lot smaller. But anyway, so we hear a lot in the original series about this lake, and Katniss and her father went there, and that was a big part of their survival in the early days of their family. They dug up Katniss, and that is why Katniss is named Katniss, because in her father's eyes it stands for survival. I've heard some people be like, she's named Katniss after a swamp potato, like they call it in this movie. And no, she's named after it because in this family it stands for survival, because when they couldn't get food, maybe they dug up this Katniss, and in history as well, as we could see in this movie, that was a form of survival. Eating of the land, they fish, they this and that, they hunt with bow and arrow, like we obviously know, but that is a big symbol of survival, and that is why she's named Katniss. And I loved that Lucy said Katniss in this movie. I loved it, even though it's just a little detail, but I loved it. Also, there are a lot of references to, obviously this movie has a lot of music in it, and that is a big reference to, well, not really a reference, but a similarity to Katniss's father and herself as well. They both have affinity for music, and her father especially had a beautiful voice, she always said, in when she's thinking back on him, and always the Mockingjays would copy him. So that is very much a similarity between her father and Lucy, and I do think that maybe Katniss's father is a lot more like Lucy than she is. And yeah, so that is a good way to show that this district has its history. You know what I mean? They have their ways of surviving. They're a tough crowd, and I loved all of those details. And yeah, just like Lucy, Katniss also uses music to start the rebellion, honestly, but also just to move people, to show them humanity, and that is a big part of the series as a whole. But anyway, so let's move on to the next. And also, Katniss's singing is what originally makes Peeta fall in love with her, just like Snow falls in love with Lucy, because of her singing originally. Anyway, so yeah, I think my favorite moment was that catching fire bell. Legendary. But anyway, so I also enjoyed the costuming, filmmaking, and world building of this older Pan Am. It very much felt like an older version of the newer world we know, and you can really tell that it's old-timey while also, sorry, my cat jumped on the thing, old-timey while also being futuristic. And I love that combination of the Hunger Games series, that both versions are like that. This one definitely feels older than the newer version we know. I just love the little world building they did. They definitely did a good job showing that. And, they could have missed the mark, and they didn't. So I'm glad about that. And yeah, so I liked that Snow started with a lot of humanity, and it shows that everyone is born with a little bit of goodness, a little bit of humanity, like Tigris and Lucy says. And also, having Tigris in this movie was such a surprise to me. I did not know she was related to Snow. I had no idea. Like, maybe that's something I missed in some of the books or something, I don't know. But it was a good surprise to me that he's related to her, and it just makes her life even sadder seeing that she was there for him, and she started with humble beginnings and grew in the capital as a stylist, turned a little bit too much capital with like the tattoos and all that, and then getting exiled because of Snow finding her not attractive anymore, and apparently she quit because she found out that he was like prostituting Finnick. So that is good on Tigris. I really love Tigris. I didn't know she would be this character that I really care about. And I do. But yeah, it just makes her life so much sadder, and I'm glad she joins the rebellion in the end. She is cool. That was such a grandma statement. But anyway, also his grandmother, ugh, yikes. But yeah, I liked that he started with a lot of humanity, like I said, and a hint of cunning. You know, you can tell that there's a hint of unhinged behavior in his, like, in the way he does things. He has this mastermindness, he has this manipulation in him, but he chooses in the beginning to, like, be good, be kind, all of that, and eventually he's like, screw it, I'm gonna be a bad guy. Anyway, so obviously he doesn't think that, but that's what he is. But yeah, there are so many moments in this movie where I get goosebumps and cry. I get a lot of goosebumps in all of the songs, and a lot of the conversations between Snow and Lucy gave a lot of goosebumps to me, because, I don't know, the whole movie was just amazing with that. I do think the dialogue was good, and yeah, I cried a lot, especially that one moment where Lucy poisons the water and she hopes that the like more aggressive tributes drink it, and then this unwitting kind random person drinks it and she's already sick. It's so horrible. I cried so much the moment I saw her walk into frame after the others leave the water there. I was like, oh no. Why are you doing this to me? And Lucy also had that same look on her face, like, what did I do? You know, I'm almost crying right now just thinking about it. But yeah, I cried a lot at that moment, and when she dies and her friend arrives and is like, what happened and stuff, and he cries and screams and whatever, like you would, and it was just heartbreaking. And I loved, this guy has like been kind of like combative this whole film. He's been very violent for his survival. I'm not being down on him, I'm just saying, like, in the film he's been aggressive, he's killed people and stuff, like they all have, of course, it's for their survival. But in this moment he showed that he has humanity, he cared about this person, he cares about all of these people actually. He just wants to survive. And he has this beautiful moment where he carries all of the bodies, I'm trying to say it soft so YouTube doesn't hear me, in one spot. He covers them up with the Pan Am flag, like showing, look at what you did, and also showing that these are humans, they deserve respect, I will give them the respect they deserve. And yeah, I love that moment of humanity, because ultimately that's what the series is about as a whole. It's about humans, no matter what darkness they're in, showing the goodness of humanity in the darkest of times. And even though it's just maybe a little glint of goodness, you know? And that is what the series is about. And that was a beautiful moment. Maybe one of the most beautiful moments in the film. But yeah, I cried a lot after that. I was like, you're breaking me, movie, you're breaking me. But yeah, that's a good thing, because this movie was amazing. But yeah, I just love that little moment. Also, the snake mutts scene, where they like freaking kill all of the tributes that are left except for Lucy. And like, that was insane. The snakes were insane as a whole. And it really was that start of like them doing a spectacle in the Hunger Games. Before that, it wasn't as much of a spectacle. But that was the moment where like they decided, we're gonna make this entertaining, which is the worst, but it makes sense. It does. But anyway. But yeah, it was awful seeing all of those tributes die, even the ones that we maybe didn't like throughout the rest of the movie, which is, they did a good job bringing that back from their like original series, because in the end of the day, the real enemy is the capital, and they showed that well in this film as well. Even though we were on Snow's side, they still managed to show that, which I love. And yeah, so that was heartbreaking, but good story-wise, and yeah, so very sad. I also loved that this was the opportunity for us to see Snow's cunning behavior, like how much of it, like he's clever, you know. We all know this, and I loved those moments where he was like figuring out what to do, and at the end of the day, it's about himself surviving and himself winning, even though he does care for Lucy, he does love Lucy, but I do think most of it is to save himself, and he does love Lucy, like he wants to save her, but I do think like most of it is for himself. I love that moment where he like takes the handkerchief that has her tears, puts it with the snake so that they have his saint, her saint, and yeah, to save her. And I love that when they ask how is she not dying, he's like, it must be the singing. That was so funny, but like smart, because all of them probably believed it until they found the evidence that he interfered. He also gave her poison, the poison that I mentioned earlier, and poison is his MO, like in the future, so it's good that they showed that the moment where he decided to like poison, I like it, and he gave it to her and it saved her life, you know. But also he used it on Peter Dinklage's character in the end. He gave him morphling, which is like this universe's version of morphine, and this guy is like addicted to morphling. It's hard to say because I really want to say morphine, but yeah, so he knew that this guy was going to drink it. He came in there like pretending like he was just making a scene about his friend dying, and like giving his friend's objects like back to the capital and being like, look at what you did and all of that, but actually he's just making sure that this guy drinks that, and he put poison in it, obviously. And that guy's like, you know, I might as well, or I'm addicted to it, and he like takes it and dies. And that's the first time Snow, like, himself uses poison to kill people. Of course he did it through Lucy, but he also did it, this time is the first time he does it himself, and that is what gets him to the top, you know, inevitably. He like poisons a lot of people, becomes president, lives a long life at the top. But anyway, so that was sad. But yeah, I did like seeing this part of him because that is a big part of his character. And at first it was subtle, like he was just manipulating his friend to leave the arena, like in a friendly way. But in his eyes, it wasn't a friend, like he was lying. He was just trying to get him out so that he could live. Like all of those little details I loved a lot in this film, and I do think they did a good job of at the beginning making it subtle enough so that you can think he's still good, and he did have goodness in him, like all people do. But in the end of the day, the darkness won out. But yeah, so I did love all of those things. It was heartbreaking when he was recording his friend to give him up, and that just makes that moment where he talks to him and he's like, I'll protect you, I'll keep you safe. Like he already gave him up. And he's like giving him this big speech, pretending like he is going to be on his side, when he already gave the recording to the the Jabberjay, so they're gonna find the recording. He already gave him up. So that is dark, and I think some people missed it. I've seen some people react to the movie like they think like he's still gonna give the recording, but no, he played the recording to the bird so that the bird has it and will say it at some point, and he's not involved at all, you know, in his eyes. But yeah, so that was heartbreaking to see him like consoling his friend, but actually he's like manipulating him. But you know, it's good. It's very good, but horrible. I also love that throughout the film he has different colored roses on his like shirt. I don't know what you call that, but the rose he gives Lucy is a white rose, which ends up being his thing. And I also love that they explain to us why he has this obsession with roses. Like in the movies, they just say that white roses are like pure or whatever, which is ew. But also, it does explain why he loves roses so much, because his mother died in childbirth, smells like roses. So that's why he has this connection with roses. And also because I'm guessing because he gave Lucy a white rose as well is why he chooses white roses to be his thing, because ultimately she's the reason he ends up being who he is. It's also his fault. Like, he already was like that, kind of, but I guess the last straw was her. But anyway, so I also love that her story ends in a mystery. Like, we don't know where she goes. We know she survived because she got away from him. He was gonna kill her, which is crazy. And yeah, so I'm guessing she got away, started a family somewhere. There are theories that she is related to Katniss. I don't know if it's true or just a theory. Like, I'm unclear about that, but a lot of people say that she could be related to Katniss, and I could see that being true, considering all the similarities and stuff I mentioned earlier, and all the things that maybe Katniss shouldn't be able to know if she wasn't related to her. But I also think it could just be like stories told through the district, you know, like passing down. It doesn't have to be that she's related to her, but I could also see it being true. So I don't know if it is true or just a theory, like I said, but either way, I do like the similarities and things. But anyway, so, and the opposition, I don't know, how do you say that? But yeah, so that is why he loves roses. His dead mom smelled like roses. Mommy issues. That was rude, but you know, he deserves it. He's Snow. Anyway, so yeah, it was also sad seeing the backstory to the hanging tree. Like, I never thought we would get that. Like, I obviously knew it was just like how they used to punish people, and now they just don't do that much anymore. And yeah, so it was sad to see the backstory of that, and now the lyrics of the song also make a lot more sense. And I love how they brought that in this movie. Obviously, the song was written before the backstory, so it is good that they matched up well, you know? So I loved that. It was very sad, but I did love that. And I loved all the songs through the film, like I said. All of them have great connections to the movie. Like, they're not just, oh, a song for whatever. Like, everything feels grounded in the film. And it does feel like Lucy wrote them, which is good. I also love how this movie shows why he immediately saw Katniss as a threat. Like, sometimes I wondered why immediately, like, obviously I saw her as could be a threat. Like, she is cunning, she's smart, she can move people without trying. Like, that is terrifying. But the reason Snow immediately saw her as a threat is because he saw how Lucy moved people. He saw the connection there. He saw, because if Lucy died, like they said, like in the Hunger Games, there would be a rebel, even worse than there was at the time. And yeah, it was because she moved people just like Lucy did, and had a lot of similarities to her, even though they had opposite personalities, but the way they move people is the same. And in the end of the day, like Snow says, like, hope, there is necessary to have a little hope, and that is what the Hunger Games provides, a little bit of hope, like, oh, you can win, you can eat. But at the end of the day, too much hope breeds rebellion, which is exactly what people like Lucy and Katniss give, which is why he's so afraid of Katniss. Like, I guess not really afraid, but you could say that. But yeah, it was heartbreaking to see the moment where Snow decides to try to kill Lucy, because he realizes that he wants to survive and be on top no matter what. Like, the moment the snake bites him, he's like, did you try to kill me? And I don't think she did. Maybe she did. I don't know. It's unclear, which is good. That's the point. We're not supposed to know. But if she tried to kill him or not, first of all, you threatened her first. You were standing with a gun in a room where she was trapped kind of in. And I get why she immediately, like, props to Lucy for seeing the red flags. Because she was like, you're gonna kill me, aren't you? And he was like not yet decided to do that, but he was pretty close. And yeah, the moment she like ran off, I think he decided, what are you doing? Are you gonna go tell on me? I'm gonna kill you. And yeah, the moment that snake bit him, he was like, he snapped and he decided to kill her. And luckily she escaped, but to him it doesn't matter, like technically in his mind she's dead. And I think that is a great way to show that Snow has always been this way. He has always had that part of him, that unhingedness, that mastermind quality, that manipulator, you know? And even though he had goodness in him, that part was always there. And at the end of that day, like, that's the dangerous part, you know? You need to stay away from people like that, like Lucy knows. And yeah, so that was a great way to show us that. Also, I knew like from the moment Snow first walked into the room with Peter Dinklage and had a conversation with him where Peter was like, you're not getting any money and all of that. And I knew from that moment that he was going to poison this guy. And I loved the payoff for that, because I think that is pretty like you could see it coming. And that's not a bad thing. I think it was kind of like a Chekhov's gun moment, you know, like, is he gonna poison someone? Is he gonna poison someone, you know? And I knew it was gonna be this guy, because clearly this guy doesn't like him and won't let him rise up, which is exactly what he wants. So yeah, I immediately knew he was gonna poison him, but it wasn't less impactful when it happened. I was still like, dang, you know, that's Snow for you, that is Snow for you. I also loved hearing the line from Old Snow at the end of the movie, that quote from one of the Hunger Games movies, it is the things we love most that destroy us. Of course, it seems he was talking about Lucy destroying him in his eyes. And even though it was all him, like, it's not Lucy, it's you. But anyway, in his eyes, Lucy was the one that pushed him over the edge. But yeah, so also he's talking about Peter and Katniss, of course, but to see where he got that mentality was great. And I love that they added that so they could be like, you see, like, I love that. So that was great to hear his voice, because that's the Snow we know, and it was great to hear him in this movie. And yeah, I just love that we ultimately don't know what happened to Lucy. Like, it's a mystery, like she said to him after she sang that song about Lucy Gray. I love that she like made herself a myth. You know what I mean? Like, that song is going to be sung by people, and like they're going to be like, who is Lucy Gray and all of that? Where is Lucy Gray? And I love that. She's like, I'm a mystery, and I love it. I love that about her. And I do love that was like foreshadowing. Like, she said she's a mystery, and in the end of the day, we don't know what happened to her. And I love that. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, enough said. I probably have been talking for a while. I had a lot of other things I wanted to say as well, but I decided just to stick with these things because, you know, maybe you still want to watch the movie if you haven't. But I would be like, why would you do that? Because I spoiled like everything. But yeah, I guess last thing I'd say is I enjoyed seeing the Hunger Games become what they are, from this like bare bones version to the crazy spectacle we see in the newer ones. So yeah, I loved seeing that, and I guess I'll say lastly that this movie was amazing. Perfect, in my opinion. A lot of you might disagree with me, but you know, it's just my experience with it as a Hunger Games fan. To me, it was perfect. They didn't do anything wrong. Maybe there are things I missed from the books, and I can't wait to read the book and be like, ooh, little details, little crumbs that I didn't know, because I love those details. But it still wouldn't make me like this movie less. Just like when I read the Hunger Games books after watching the movies, it didn't make me like the movies less. It made me love it more, because I knew all of the stuff that they left out, and I knew all of these details that made the characters even better than they were. So I'm hoping the book does that for me. Maybe you can tell me if you read the book. Is it accurate? Is it well done as adaptation? But for me, I think this movie was amazing. And, you know, it's hard for me to say perfect. Like, it is perfect for me. I have nothing I would change, honestly. And that is crazy. I haven't said that about a movie in a while, or thought that about a movie in a while. And if I had to give it like a rating, I don't really rate movies, so I don't know why I'm doing that, but if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it 9.5. Only because I don't think you should give anything a 10. So I would give it a 10, but that's crazy. I can't give anything a 10. That's just ridiculous. So yeah, 9.9999. I really love this movie so much. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie. I'm really sorry I couldn't do a reaction, but I do think that was a blessing in disguise. This review, I think it was a lot of fun for me to do, and probably gonna be a lot of work to edit, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, I really love this movie, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.